Oh, can you guys all see and hear me? You guys all see and hear me? You guys all see and hear me? Oh dear, I'm echoing. You guys all see and hear me? Oh dear, I'm echoing. You guys all see and hear me? One moment. Okay, is this gonna work? Awesome. So I've never used my Twitch account for anything but watching Critical Role up until today, so bear with me. Okay, it is 2 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. Hello, I'm Elephant Bird Cosplay. My friends call me Birdie. And I'm here to talk about getting started with Goldwork embroidery. So a little bit about me. I've been cosplaying since I was 14, and through the years I've been really interested in learning new techniques, really pushing my craftsmanship, particularly my sewing. And I do want to do this professionally someday, so I'm currently in a degree program for fibers. I'm a junior. And that has really enabled me to learn a lot of really interesting and different techniques. And one of them is Goldwork. I took a class in it recently, and it's just a very different way of working in embroidery. But the results are absolutely beautiful. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it here. So there are a couple tools and things that you need to get started that I have here. The first is you're going to want an embroidery hoop that is on a stand. You really want to be able to access the back and the front at the same time, so the stand is really helpful. I'm going to have a little doc that you can look at after the stream that has all of my equipment on it, but this is an Amazon hoop. It was about $25. It came with the hoop, and it's awesome. What you're going to do with that then is take some bias tape or twill tape and just wrap it around both hoops, hand stitch it in place. This will protect your fabric from warping, and it will also keep your tension tighter. You do want to use white or unbleached because the dye can rub off on your fabric if you're not careful. You'll also need just regular thread that somewhat matches your metal. I'm working with gold, so I'm going to use kind of a mustard colored thread. Any hand stitching needle is fine. You will need scissors to cut your metal threads. Don't use nice scissors. It is metal. It will dull them. You can just use like any cheap children's craft scissors. I'm going to be using these random embroidery scissors that came with a Walmart pincushion. They're super dull, but they work just fine for metal. And finally, most importantly, are your metal threads. There's a lot of different kinds that I'm going to go through here, but the kinds that I'm going to be using on this stream are braid check, rough pearl, and this is called a Grecian twist. And I'll get into more of what that means later. And you also need some felt or some like basically thick twine-like thread to build up your base. Dimensionality with Goldwork is really important. That's why you have this little like button here. This is actually, I think, 5 layers of felt, what you're gonna, to build up the dimensionality. Goldwork is best when it can play off of light. It's metal, it's reflective, And so if you can get kind of peaks and valleys and more dimension, then it's gonna play with the light in a little bit of a more interesting way. So you can kind of see the outline. I have all of these different circles that start smallest and then get bigger. You start with the smallest one, you just hand tack it down and move upwards. The reason that you do it starting from the smallest and then go up to the largest is so that it will be a nice smooth gradation instead of being stepped. Oh, and one last thing on the planning part of it. This Goldwork and actually my smocking panel later in the weekend are all me working on my Timeskip Edelgard build, which is chilling behind me. And if you're interested in seeing all the crazy things that I'm throwing at that, please check my build thread on Twitter. Sorry. Okay, so when you're getting started, you start with a technical drawing. These are all things that I drew to scale, and then I started thinking about what types of threads I wanted to put in. And I have this zigzag here to represent the bright check. I have these rectangles to represent the smooth one, and then I'm bordering everything in the Grecian twist. This one down here is the one that I'm going to be working on today because it's the smallest one, and it also uses the most techniques, which means that I'll get to show you guys the most of it. I'm going to deviate from it a little bit because I don't quite have the right material to do this little swirl in the middle, but you'll still be able to see everything. So, Goldwork has an order of operations to it. When you first start out, you want to do anything that's going to be couched down. Anything that is a rope-like thread is going to be couched down. There's like this Grecian twist, but there's also, I have this cool starter kit here that is also linked in my doc. There's also things like a rococo twist, or this very thin, smooth passing. Anything that looks like a thread, you're going to couch down. You never actually bring your metal threads to the back the way that you would when you're doing embroidery. Obviously, you have it on a needle, you go in and out. You don't do that with metal. You don't want to have all the friction against it of going up and down. You also don't want to waste it by having it on the back. It's not cheap. It's not horribly expensive, but you don't want to be putting a bunch of gold on the back. There's really no point to it. And some of these metal threads are very delicate, and so if you had it passing in and out of the fabric, that would probably break them. So when you have something like this that looks like a rope, you're going to couch it down. And like I said, you'll just do that with a normal sewing thread that is about the same color as the metal you're working with. And though the technique is called Goldwork, this does come in all colors. The starter kit that I have is in silver because my school was not able to order enough gold kits for everybody. But I've also seen like fun colors. I've seen hot pink, I've seen blue. These metal threads really come in like every color. You can do a lot of really interesting things with them. And as long as you just keep your threads very careful and you kind of like follow the pattern of your thread, you're really not gonna see the couching threads. They're just gonna blend in and become invisible. While I'm working, I'm gonna talk about ground a little bit. You need something that is strong, and usually when you're working with this technique, you would do you could do any fabric you want, but you would use this cross stitch or herringbone stitch to sew it directly down to the muslin. The reason that I didn't do that in this case is because it's going to be an applique, and so I wanted to use this very see-through silk organza. so that the edges will be cleaner when I sew it onto the costume, but anything you use has to be very strong. You're putting a lot of tension on this. I used 100% silk organza because it is a lot stronger than polyester organza. I would be very worried about my polyester organza ripping if I put it on the kind of tension that you need for embroidery to work well. But if you do want to use a fabric that's not as strong, all you have to do is sew it down to a piece of muslin or something like that to keep it stable. I actually, that's what I did for this soul gem that I worked on that I never actually finished. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one now so that it doesn't keep getting caught like that. You do want to leave a little tail, and I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, I guess that one actually is thick enough that it needs to be. That one actually does need to be cut with nice scissors. You're not going to ruin them immediately, but okay, so I just couched down this whole thing around the border of my design. What's going to happen next is I'm going to plunge them to the back. This is the one time that you are going to put your metal threads in the back. I poked a hole in advance because this Grecian twist is so thick. And I'm just gonna kind of pull it through the hole. Or stick my needle through the hole. And then like wrap it around my tail. Kind of lasso it. And pull her through that way. I made the hole in advance because this Grecian twist is so thick, but when you're using a more like just a smaller one, that won't happen. I have not used Grecian twist this thick before, so I am having a little trouble here. Bear with me. There we go. And once those are pulled to the back, we have this nice, clean thing. So I'm just gonna check the Twitch chat quick if there's any questions. I have not been looking at it at all. So it does organza not fray if it's for applique. I am going to have to finish the edges of this somehow. I'm probably just going to use pinking shears. I might just use glue. I haven't fully thought through what's going to happen once this comes off the hoop, but thankfully that's not what I'm trying to talk about today. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions jump out. I'm gonna do, if there's time, a little bit of a Q&A at the very end. And you can always, please find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and ask me questions. But I'm gonna move on to the next one, which I think is a little more fun, which is called chip work. So the couching part is pretty self-explanatory. It looks like a rope, you sew it down. I was just using a very basic whip stitch. The other types of metal threads that we're going to use, they look like tiny springs, actually. I call them shiny noodles, but they're literally a spring that you can, like, pull apart if you try. And it's not really going to go back, so I'm not going to do much of that pulling apart because I can't use that now. But it's a spring, it's hollow. And so a lot of what Goldwork is basically using these noodles to make your own beads and use it like that. So when you're doing this, you're going to want to have something that you can put your little chips on. They make special mats. I don't have one. I'm using a scrap of velvet that's not actually a scrap. It's a pattern piece for Edelgard that I haven't sewn together yet. We're going a little chaotic here. It's fine. But what you're going to do is, for the chip work part of this, is literally cut tiny little chips. And they're really easy to lose, which is why the velvet is nice. I'm trying to put this so you can see, but we might not be able to. This setup is a little bit awkward for me. So this is how much I'm just going to cut to start, because I can always go back and cut more. And I very much will need more. That's not enough. I just don't want to sit here and cut for 10 minutes in front of you guys. But you use these little chips that you've cut, and basically cover your surface, or whatever part of your surface you're doing. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick it through. I dropped it. They're really small. It can be really tricky to grab them. It takes a lot of practice. And I have, like, I'm getting there, you guys. I understand the technique, but it's one of those things that you just have to build up over a lot of time to really be fast at it, and you're never truly going to be fast because it's embroidery. But I'm just gonna start essentially laying these little chips down at random. You really want them to go a lot of different directions. What you're doing here is you're making like a bumpy texture that really catches the light beautifully, and I am gonna spend a little bit of time just doing this bumpy part. I'm gonna get as much as I can of this covered in the time that I have allotted for chip work, and hopefully it'll be enough for you guys to really see what it looks like. I love chip work. I think it's really beautiful. The third and final type of gold work that I'm going to get to later is cut work, which is basically this, but using much longer strings that you measure specifically for each one that you put down. And like I said, there's an order of operations. You always do all of your couching, all of your chip work, and then all of your cut work. And the reason for this is because these metal threads are, again, fragile. And so you want to limit the amount of movement that you really have on them while you're working. You don't want to be jostling them around a lot. Couch threads are really, like, they're not that big of a deal. They're just, they're thread. So they're really probably not going to break on you. Chipwork, it's so small that, like, it is the more delicate spiral style ones, but they're also, like, they're not as delicate as the cutwork ones, which can be very long. I had a couple that were, like, on my Soul Gem piece that were, like, over an inch long, and those were really tricky. I'm going to try to arrange this so I can see the chat in front of me while I do this part, because I will be just kind of chipping away for a little bit. Are there certain scissors that I was using just now to cut chips? Like I said, you don't want to use nice scissors. My embroidery teacher actually recommends just, like, icky child's craft scissors from the store because they're cheap, and when you ruin them, you can, on metal, you can just throw them away. You can get nice scissors for Goldwork that, like, are specifically for Goldwork, and you sharpen them, but just get nasty little scissors that you can throw away, and it's easier and better. Like I said, I was using, like, these really gross, like, dull embroidery scissors that came with a pin cushion that I got from Joann's. So just use scissors that you don't mind ruining. Yes, okay, Tree Reel mentioned use a large-eyed needlepoint needle to pull the cord to the backside of the fabric. That is a great way to do it. The reason that I didn't do it with this one was because my Grecian twist is so thick, but that is what I did exclusively when I was using much smaller, like much thinner. Like, actually, let me pull that out quick. Let me show you what a smaller one would look like. So this is a silver-plated half twist, and this is like another thread that you would couch, and you see it's a lot thinner. It looks almost the thickness of embroidery thread. That is where you would definitely use that lasso technique. And the smooth passing that I showed is actually, it's the same thickness as a normal sewing thread. I would just thread that onto a big needle and sew it down to the bottom. The reason that I did not do that for this again is because the Grecian twist is so very thick that I felt that doing the lasso method would just be really difficult. Oh, I was not paying attention and put my chip in on the back. Okay, I'm gonna need to cut some more chips, but as you can see, like, this is just a technique that you very slowly build up. I'm gonna open the Twitch chat again while I do this cutting. So if you have questions about what I've done so far, get those in. My chat is not refreshing if people are talking, so, are you going through the felt or all the way? Yes, I am going all the way through the felt. And this is about 5 layers of felt. I've seen people do layers. I saw like 7 layers of felt or even more. That's why it's good to use something like felt that is so squishy, so you can get your needle through it very easily. Something else that I did not talk about earlier, I'm just using craft felt. It doesn't have to be nice. I think the kit that I got did come with like nice felt, but I'm just using craft felt that I had in my stash. Something that I did not talk about when I was talking about setup is wax. Waxing your thread is very helpful when you're doing the this herringbone stitch here, and it's also very helpful when you're laying down your base, especially if you want to use, stretch that out, especially if you want to use this like twine type thing as your base. You definitely want to wax that because then it almost becomes a sculptural thing that you can really shape. How's that? Dark Spawn Horror says, how's that not driving you nuts? Craft felt always fuzzes really bad on me. I'm just not touching it very much. Like, I cut it out, I sewed it down, I did it as quickly as possible, which is really, like, something you want to think about with goldwork in general. Again, it is metal, and it will tarnish, so you, obviously, while you're working with it, you just do the best you can, but you really want to limit the amount that you touch it, because the oils in your hands will cause it to tarnish. I also, when I'm not working on it, I just have a little piece of muslin that I drape over it so that the sunlight can't hurt it. Okay, I have a decent amount of chips, so I'm going to go back to sewing it down for a little bit. Is there a general list of supplies that one would need to get started with it? Yes, so I put together a little card that has some suppliers that I like and trust, that's going to be available on social media once this is done with. But I also just want to give a, I really, really highly recommend this starter kit that I have from Garibaldi's Needleworks. They are an Etsy store. It comes with everything you need to get started. It includes, like, I think 6 or 12 different types of metal threads. You can really see what all the different ones look like. It comes with thread. It comes with a little bit of metallic leather, which is also sometimes used in goldwork. I'm not going to get into it here because it's just sewing down leather. It comes with the felt. It comes with truly everything you need. And so if you don't know what the metal threads look like, if you don't really know how to gather things together, that's a great place to start. It comes in gold and silver. I'm not sponsored. I just really, really like this starter kit. And I recommend, every time someone asks me, like, where should I get the materials to get started? Like, that's what I say. It's like, get the Garibaldi starter kit. It's also, like, it's what the school purchased for us when we got started in the class, too. Okay, I've seen some gold workers stitch down large amounts of embroidery floss rather than felt as a base. Do you prefer one over the other, or are they best for different things? So, if you want to get a larger shape like I have, where I really wanted this big button, I feel that felt is better because I can get a really smooth shape. But if you're doing like a filigree, or if you're doing something that does have like a long, skinny shape to it, it would make a lot more sense to use embroidery floss. If you use waxed embroidery floss and then really just squish it into whatever shape you want, you can then couch that down, and that's another great base. It's not quite right for this project, but it's absolutely something I would do. And maybe it's a more proper technique. I really don't know. It's possible that that's like the classical gold work and felt is like cheating. I don't know. I like felt for this purpose. I think felt is going to be correct for this purpose. Couch, I love couch down. It's like hunker down in Florida. I think that those mean slightly different things, but couching is a good technique. And I'm just gonna like bring this a little closer to the camera for a second. I hope you can see the chip work just makes this really interesting textural, like almost scratchy looking thing. And that is also specifically because I'm using the bright check, which is instead of being a circular spiral to make the thing, it's more of a triangle that is rotated. If you did chip work with the smooth passing, then it wouldn't be nearly as textural. You kind of have to, it's hard to really know what thread is right for your project until you've really gotten in and started playing with the threads, which is again why I recommend like a good starter kit that has a lot of different types for you to play with. Something I'm trying to be careful of that I think maybe I could be doing a better job is, again, varying the directions, because the point of this is to look a little bit random. You don't want to have all of your chips going the same direction. Unless that's the look you're going for. It might be, like, having everything laid down like a brick might be correct for your project. But most of the chip work I see is more like in a random scattered pattern, like it's almost a pile of chip work that has fallen. And you also, I lost my needle. When you have started to lay it down a little bit, and you have a layer happening, you want to layer it on top. You want to like layer them on top of each other, because that's how you're going to get, like, you don't want to see the felt through it. You want to keep going until you can't see any felt. Okay, do you ever arrange chips intentionally going the same way to make it smoother, or would you always do it, in a semi-random direction? Yeah, it's whatever's right for your project. It's a design choice. I really like the random textural look. Get on there. There you go. Where'd it go? What is the backing fabric being used? Yes, I'm using 100% silk organza as this backing. Oh, I got two on there somehow. It really is, like, once you get started, you just kind of lay it down. I gotta cut more chips, so I'm gonna, again, have the Twitch in front of me while I do that. And I'm gonna go on this, I'm only gonna work on the cut work part of it for about 7 more minutes to make sure that I'm able to get to chip work. To get to cut work. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it on this project. If not, I'll just do it a little off to the side so you can see it, and I'll probably use my silver because that is not what I'm using for this project right now. What's really fun is when you manage to snag the edge of your chip and it unspools you. That is... fun's a word for it. That's happened to me a couple times right now. They are so delicate. Oh, I just unspooled a ton of it. Look at this. But yeah, I'm just gonna cut that off and keep going. Do you bunch heavily and work outward from your starting point, or do you cover your intended area lightly and then fill it in? I tend to just, I tend to work in one area and then go outward. It's a personal preference. It's whatever you want to do. I might lay it all down and then go fill in more areas later. Right now I'm focusing on one area because I'm trying to get one area done enough that I can put the cut work on top of it. Looks like that might not happen because this is a very slow process. Okay, do suppliers generally have different Goldwork threads, or are they generally the same quality? The places that I linked you all to, and that I wrote in my little doc, they're all going to be good, high-quality threads. You're going to be able to trust that they're, if they say they're gold, they're gold. If they say they're gilt, they're still good quality gilt. If you're brave, you can just check Alexi Express. I've heard that there's like super cheap Goldwork supplies on there, but there's really no guarantee of quality. I only linked places that I trust, but there's a whole jungle out there of just importing this from Alexi Express, and you can totally do that, and if you find a place that has good stuff, please let me know. Is unspooled thread basically useless, or you can repurpose it somehow? It's pretty much useless. Like, maybe you might have some design thing going where it's really thin and you see your thread through it, but it's pretty much useless, so you're gonna want to be really careful with your stuff as you work. And, don't let people you don't trust touch Goldwork stuff. Okay, I got a bunch more chips. I'm just gonna go as far as I can with these chips, and then I'm gonna move on to cut work. It doesn't look like I'll be doing cut work on this piece specifically because I don't think I'm going to be far enough into the chip work to do that. But I got plenty of silver threads that I don't have any use for right now. It came in my kit for school, and I didn't. I have a ton of leftovers. We can play with that all day. Actually, this soul gem that I did do for school, every single thing on this came out of the starter kit, and I still have a ton left over. So that just goes to show like how much there is in this kit. I feel like I'm just like evangelizing it, but it's really nice. Can you guys hear my parakeets in the background? They're having a very intense discussion right now. Okay, so Sarcasm Hime says, I ordered a lot from embroidery material in India. They're not gold, but if you need large quantities, it's a good deal. That is good to know. So far my projects have been small enough that I've just kind of gotten the real thing. I ordered from a US-based supplier because I needed it fast. But if you have time, and if you need a lot, it sounds like embroidery materials is a good place to look. Okay, so What kit were y'all discussing? Thank you, Cosmonaut. It is Garibaldi on Etsy, but I also just made a little card of suppliers that I like that I'm going to be posting on social media once this is all done. The other things listed on there, so I can talk about them a little bit, are De La Broderie, which is another Etsy shop. That shop has also a lot of really nice beads and sequins. They are based in Europe, so if you're in the US, they can take a little bit of time to ship, but they have those colored threads, which are really fun. They have like rose gold and blue and all kinds of wonderful colors, and I'm really excited to like find an opportunity to do colored gold work at some point. And then the last supplier that I put on is Berlin embroidery, which also has like nice colors. I don't think they have as much of a selection of nice colors as De La Broderie, but they are based in Canada, and they are another great option. I know Everett recommends them highly. I have a friend who recommends them highly. I've not used them personally, but I've seen really good results from their stuff. Okay, have you been able to see a difference in tarnishing with higher gold content threads versus cheaper ones? I have not used cheaper ones. I am still working on the first nice kit that I got from school. I still have materials from that. I ordered this kit because I needed it fast from a US-based supplier, and they had high quality, so that's unfortunately not a question that I can answer right now. But if you're looking to prevent tarnishing, it's just basic, like, don't touch it too much. I tried to put my things in low traffic areas of my costume, if that makes sense. You'll want to cover them so that they are not in the sun when you're not working on them and when you're not wearing the costume. Historically, goldwork would be on ceremonial garments because it is something that's very ephemeral, and it's something that if you wear it every day, then it won't exist anymore in a really nice form. And I think that is one of the things that's kind of beautiful about it, but it is something that you have to be careful on it when you want to put it on something like a costume. Get that one. I know I saw another question, so I'll just grab that one in a second. Do you feel it's necessary to have a more frame versus a hoop for gold work? This hoop works perfectly fine. A frame is really nice. I use them for tambour. But as long as you can get enough tension on it, and as long as you can work on the back, as long as you can get to the back, so you need a hands-free hoop if you're going to use a hoop, it doesn't make a huge difference. It also might be space. If you're doing a giant emblem, you might need a hoop. You might need a frame. Okay, I use the cheaper one since I needed a huge amount, and so far haven't noticed any tarnishing in 2 years. Have only worn the costume twice, though. That's super awesome to know. Towards the end of the panel, would you be able to show us some finished examples? I missed the beginning of the panel. I can show you guys the soul gem again, and I can point out the things that are on it, but I don't have any finished examples with me right now. Okay, it is 2:42, so even though I still have a couple chips left, I'm just going to show you guys cut work really quick, because we're going to run out of time here. This is such a slow process. You have to really love, hand stitching to do this. So to finish it, I'm just going to flip over to the back of the hoop. The back does not look nice. The back doesn't have to look nice. This isn't one of those arts where the back is going to be super pretty, and I'm just going to do a little, knot. There's no special knot here. It's just a knot. My teacher showed me a special knot, and I immediately forgot how to do it, and so I didn't do it the entire project and had no problems. Okay, just gonna pull that and trim that. And so, I'm gonna talk about cut work in my last couple minutes here. But I also want to just put my thing back in its little envelope. We gotta take care of our materials, guys. Don't just leave them out everywhere like I tend to do. So I'm actually going to, because I'm not doing a specific design for this, I'm just showing you how it works. I'm going to alternate between this wire check and, lots of passing, this pearl. And so the wire check is very similar to what I was just using, the bright check. It's the same shape. The only difference is it's not quite as shiny. And then pearl is just, it's a spring. It's very like a normal spring. And what cut work is, it's the same thing as chip work, except it is long and laid down very like neatly. So we're not gonna get quite the same effect because we aren't gonna have any dimension on this one, but I'm just gonna draw a little square with a pen because I'm a monster. So the biggest difference between cut work and chip work is for your cut work, you're actually going to individually measure every single one to be the exact size you want before you cut it, which makes chip work the most time consuming of all of them. And like obviously once you know the size that you want for one of them, you can like take that and just continue to cut more of them, but you still gotta actually watch how long you're cutting them. And that's, it just takes a while, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is super time consuming. There's a reason that I decided to do this project now while I am in quarantine with nothing to do except my homework, which I need alternatives to my homework very badly. Okay, so I cut a couple with the wire check. Now I'm gonna cut a couple of these pearl, which is really fun to say, by the way, pearl. And then I'm gonna just stitch those down. And one of the fun things about this one is it actually will like shrink a little bit. It'll compress in on itself as you pull it in, so you don't have to be quite as exact with this one as you do with some of the other ones. I'm just gonna put this one away, or I'm not, because yeah, there's the envelope. I also feel like I might have switched this envelope with something else. I feel like this wasn't pearl originally. I forget the names of things. Maybe it is. Okay. Let me just check the Twitch chat quick before I keep moving. Talking a lot about making your own lace. God bless ya. I don't have the patience, and I have the patience for this somehow. Okay, I just looked it up because I thought real gold doesn't tarnish. Apparently for real gold-based gold work to be malleable enough, it is combined with silver, which is what tarnishes. So precious metal gold work tarnishes more than imitation, which can create desirable antique looks. Thank you for looking that up. Because it is true that real gold doesn't tarnish, but gold work sure does. I'm gonna keep coming back to this soul gem. If you look very carefully, it is already tarnishing. But that is because I was just touching all over it. I didn't really put any effort into keeping it safe. I just wanted to get it done because I was a little behind on the project when that was happening. Happens to the best of us, especially me. And I'm going to use instead my gray thread. It's literally just like Gutterman polyester thread. The thread does not have to be nice. It just has to blend in. For this, thread my needle. No special knot. Again, I just forget about special knots. I'm like not a disciplined seamstress sometimes, you guys. I don't know how to do knots. Okay. So we're just gonna start this off here. I am gonna do a quick little tack it down because this is organza, and so the knot wants to, the knot special knot that I did wants to come out. So I'm just gonna do a little back stitch because that'll make it not come out, maybe. Nope. This doesn't matter, and I could sit here and troubleshoot, but I think you would rather watch me do Goldwork than play with knots. So I'm just going to tie this, and we're just gonna have to live with it. But yeah, you take your long noodle boy, and you just gotta ease it onto the needle. Because it is a spring, there are points where it might want to come poke out of the needle. Try not to let it do that. Just get that sucker on the needle. My needle might be a little thick because it appears to be having some trouble. Appears to have some trouble getting on. That's awesome. I'm gonna grab a beading needle. Sorry about that. Because we only have 5 minutes left, I'm gonna point out the the cut work on here. That's all this. This is extremely long cut work that was way too long and caused problems because it was so long. Try to keep it to an inch or less, because otherwise it doesn't want to stay put. But you can make it curve if it's curving around something. See how I have this, I have these little bunches of chip work, and then I curved my cut work around it. Curved around it. I think there might be a little couching stitch in there just at the bottom, but because it is metal, it does kind of have it has some oomph to it. If you make it into a little loop, it'll stay as a loop. So you can curve it around things. It needs to have something guiding its way, if that makes sense. Handy dandy sewing box. Do I have a beading needle handy? Okay, I have a needle that I'm gonna try. I really hope it works. I'm very sorry that I didn't realize my needle was too thick for my cut work when I started. Okay, got this little tiny itty bitty baby needle. That's hopefully gonna be okay. Welcome to my panel, Birdie attempting to thread a needle for 5 minutes. Yeah. Alright. Alright, are we in business? We are, with 2 minutes to spare. Woo! So, cut work causes problems. Write that down. I made mine too long. I don't even... This one's harder. Remember the days of chip work when things were really going well? There we go. Look at that. Look at how nice that's just staying right there. So next I'm going to do next I'm going to just do one of these smoother springy boys. And I am going to make that one a little shorter because I want to show you what I mean by it kind of shrinks. Oh, I broke that one. Completely unraveled that one. My ill-fated cut work. Okay, it is 2:55. I'm literally just gonna do this one and then I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all so much for coming. Please check out my, I'm going to be on a sewing roundtable, and then I'm going to be doing a panel on smocking. Both of these are at midnight. Yeah, see, when I kind of yank it, it really, like, it collapses in on itself and it gets a little bit shinier. So that's a cool thing about chip work. Thank you all for coming. I'm Elephant Bird Cosplay. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as L3FentBird. I typed it right there. Please check out everybody else's panel. Thank you so much for coming to Craftchella, and have a great weekend. Bye.